Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my NFL season report card grades. Before I continue, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate if you do that. We're really trying to go to channel, so go ahead and do that. So the way this works is after each season, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to do one for college football as well. That's probably not going to come out to another week or so because I still got to do a little bit of work with the group of five of where I want these teams graded at. But basically, I'm going to go through each team, tell you which grade I would give each team. We have A through F and then S tier. S tier is the super tier, that is the A plus tier. A, solid A. B to B minus. I don't believe in I didn't want to make a bunch of tiers like this team gets a B plus, but this team gets a B minus. It's either you get an a B, a C, a D, or a F. So let's get into it. We'll kick off with the LA Rams. I'm giving the LA Rams. Uh, I'm gonna give them a high F. The LA Rams, F plus if you might. Yeah, injuries hurt this team a lot. Let's be honest, they did. Um, but they still went 5-12, 6-11, something like that. Just absolutely did not hit the marks. I thought this team at worst would be at least a wild card team. LA Rams, F tier, just not a good season. Just did not hit the expectation mark at all. I know they had some injuries. I know, hell, the second half of the season they were basically outside of Jalen Ramsey, really not playing any of the guys off that Super Bowl roster last year because they were injured. They'll all come back. I think the Rams will improve. I think this is just a fluke that they went. I believe they went 6-11. So this was a fluke for the Rams. But F plus, give them an F. Arizona Cardinals F. This season was an absolute disaster for the Cardinals. They are looking for a new head coach. They hired a new head coach, the Eagles defensive coordinator. I will be ranking the NFL head coaching hires. There's only 5 this year, but I will be getting a video out on that as well. But this season was an F. Cliff Kingsbury I think couldn't wait to leave Arizona. That's how bad it was. I think it was relieved that he got fired. Just absolute disaster. Kyle Murray has not been working out that huge contract extension, so F for the Cardinals. And by the way, ignore the ads on the side. I can't get rid of them, so I tried. So just keep that. Just ignore the ads. Next, Falcons. I'm gonna give the Falcons a C. And you might be like, well, they only went 6-11 or 7-10, whatever they went. They hit the over on the win mark. If Sports Bang, if I was able to, I would have definitely bet the over on the Atlanta 4.5 win mark there. And I think they saw that, hey, Desmond Ridder might have a future in the NFL. I still think they need more games, obviously, but they were definitely, I think, a lot better than what a lot of people thought. And they have a plan, and they are instituting that plan. So I'm gonna give the Falcons a solid C. I don't think that roster is anything to write home about, but I thought they kind of hit my expectations. I said Atlanta was gonna win 6, 7 games this year, and they did. So give Atlanta a C. Ravens. I'm gonna give the Ravens a B. Yes, the whole Lamar Jackson situation is not good for the Ravens. But at the same time, you still made the playoffs. You almost beat Cincinnati on the road. If you just gave J.K. Dobbins the ball, you probably would have beat Cincinnati. You look at the Ravens, Tyler Huntley. Listen, Pro Bowl quarterback. You have 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks on the team. You gotta make a decision there. If I'm the Ravens, I think you gotta keep Lamar Jackson since he's the better one out of the two. But we'll see what the Ravens do this offseason with Lamar Jackson, but I'm gonna give the Ravens a B. I think I think this was a solid year for the Ravens. Could easily contend again for the AFC North. They just got to get over that hump. They have not been able to get over the hump since they got Lamar Jackson. And when I mean getting over the hump, getting to the AFC Championship game. Next team, Buffalo Bills. I'm gonna give the Bills a B as well. I am gonna put them ahead of the Ravens since they won their division and won a playoff game. But I gotta admit, I was a little bit disappointed in the Bills down the stretch. I thought Josh Allen had a horrible second half of the season, And I said take Miami plus 13 on the channel, and sure enough they did. And I would have picked the Bengals if I had time to film the video. I would have picked the Bengals to beat the Bills, and that's exactly what they did in convincing fashion. So I think the Bills have a little bit of work to do. But overall, the Bills, I'll give them a B. They did alright, in my opinion. Panthers, I'm giving the Panthers a C. I'm paying them ahead of the Falcons. This team overachieved. They should have kept Steve Wilkes as their head coach. And when I do the NFL head coaching hires, I'm telling you right now that Frank Reich is not going to be getting a good grade. But I think the Panthers overachieved. This team looked dead in the water. Steve Wilkes was able to at least salvage the season somewhat, and I'm giving the Panthers a C. They get a solid C from me. Honestly, they might be a quarterback away from really competing to get up in this division. So this was a down year for the NFC South. So I'm giving the Panthers a C. I think the Panthers really did a great job this year, but I can't give them anything higher than a C because of the record. Bears, F. Now I'm gonna put the Bears ahead of the Cardinals, but I wasn't high on them coming into this year. And to be honest, they get the first overall pick. I don't get the whole. I would have fired the Bears head coach. If Furbus, however you pronounce his name, I would have fired him after this year. The Bears did not have the worst roster in the league. Um, the worst roster in the league, in my opinion, was the Panthers, or the Texans. Pick which one. But the Bears, I thought, really underachieved a little bit this year. I thought this team would at least get to 6-7 wins. They didn't. I gotta give them an F. But I do think things are looking bright in Chicago, especially with the looming new stadium, which I think will happen. I think they will not be playing at Soldier Field much longer. Bengals. I'm gonna give the Bengals an A. Listen, almost beat Kansas City and Arrowhead again. If your defense didn't cost you some dumb penalties, you probably would have beat them. And you won the division. And I think if you're the Bengals, I feel like you're right there. I really do. I mean, it's you, Kansas City, and Buffalo, in my opinion, and maybe Baltimore. So, Bengals, A. The next hump is to win a Super Bowl there in Cincinnati. So, hopefully, they could get that job done. Cleveland Browns. I'm giving the Cleveland Browns a D. I know Deshaun Watson for the first 2/3 of the season. That kind of hurts them. But I thought this team would have been at least a little bit better than what they were before they got Deshaun Watson. This is a big year for the Browns. I think they will compete for the playoffs, possibly for the AFC North. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this is a really tough division in the AFC North. I think all four teams prove, or at least the other three teams in the AFC North prove that they ain't going anywhere. So I'm giving the Browns I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give them a D. But I do think things are looking up for Cleveland as well. I just think that just wasn't very impressed with the first half of the season. And then when Deshaun Watson came back, it didn't really get much better. I don't think it was a complete disaster, but giving them a D. Cowboys. I'm going to give the Cowboys a B, and I'm paying them ahead of the Bills and Ravens. And yes, I know they did not win their division, but they still went 12-5. Most every years 12-5 is winning the division. They won a playoff game. They went on the road and beat Tampa and actually ran them off their own field. They played a really competitive game against San Francisco, a team that I did think was better than the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys, in my opinion, were the third best team in the NFC. I would have liked to see them against the Eagles again. I know they split the series, the Cowboys and the Eagles. I would have loved to see that again. But I think they're very close. I really do, the Cowboys. And I do want to congratulate Dak Prescott winning Walter Payton Man of the Year award. That was nice to see there. So I'm giving them a B. And to be honest, it was really close to an A. Like they barely missed the A mark. You didn't make it to the NFC Championship game. I felt like that was the goal this year for the Cowboys. You just missed that, but I think you guys definitely proved that you have something there in Dallas. Broncos, F. I'm gonna put them God, this is tough. Where should I put them? I'm gonna put them. God, I'm just gonna put them behind the Cardinals because I thought their expectations were a little bit higher coming into the season. The Broncos were a disaster this year. They bring in Sean Payne. I expect them to at least be competing for the playoffs right away. Um, but this was bad this year for the Broncos. Hackett did not work out. Nathaniel Hackett did not work out. Just absolutely horrible for the Broncos this year. Just horrendous. And I think this roster was pretty good. So I'm giving them an F. Lions. I'm giving the Lions a B. Now I'm paying them behind the other teams that have a B so far because they didn't make the playoffs. But I said coming into the season, watch out for Detroit. They're going to be around 500, and sure enough, 9-8. So, and let me tell you something. The second half was very impressive. I think the Lions. I think the future is very bright in Detroit. For the first time, probably in a very long time with the Lions, there is hope with the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell has these guys playing their tails off. You look at their future is looking very bright in Detroit. It really is. I'm giving them a B. Probably the lower end of the B scale because they did start off the season 1-6. Keep that in mind, but this team is definitely going in the right direction. Give Dan Campbell a lot of credit for not losing the locker room after starting the season 1-6. Because I've seen coaches lose the locker room after starting the season 1-4. I mean, 1-6. I mean, that must have been really tough for Campbell hold together that locker room, and they turned it around 9-8 season. And future's right there in Detroit. Packers F. I'm paying them in the high end of F though because I did say that the Packers I felt like were gonna fall off some this year. Matt LaFleur is a fucking idiot. I'm not pulling any punches there. That's my honest opinion about him. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he's not. And proved this season that was the case. Just absolutely horrible play calling. Had no faith in Aaron bleeping Rodgers throughout the season. Just absolutely horrible. The only thing that saves the Packers from not being behind some of these teams is that my expectations for the Packers were missing the playoffs. And boy, did they did. And they almost made the playoffs. If they made the playoffs, it probably would have gone up to at least a C. But the Packers are horrible this year, and I don't expect things to get much better there in Green Bay, honestly. So give me an F for the Packers. Texans. I'm going to give the Texans an F as well. I am going to put them behind the Packers, but have everybody else based off of expectations. Yes, this was a bad roster. You did thought that they would maybe be a little bit better. I mean, I thought they were going to at least pick someone off for a win in the season and have a win or two out of nowhere. But I mean, they bring in D'Amico Ryans. I think that's an excellent hire. I think things will be looking up for the Texans. As a matter of fact, if the Texans over under win total is anything below 5, I will bet the over. So Texans, I'll give them an F, but I think this is the last year we're going to put them in as an F. Colts F. This year was a disaster. I'm going to go ahead and put the Colts. I'm going to put them behind the Rams because yes, I know they're injured, but at the same time, I actually thought that the Colts' expectations were a little bit higher than the Rams because I wasn't too sold on the Rams. I had the Rams kind of as a 1-out, basically, coming into the season. The Colts, I thought, were going to win the AFC South. They fired Frank Reich. He's the head coach of the Panthers now. Jeff Saturday came in. He beat the Raiders and lost every other game he could. And then they hired the Eagles offensive coordinator. I'll have to look into that hire a little bit before I give a grade on it. That's why you're not getting the coaching hire video until next week. But listen, the Colts just a disaster. Matt Ryan was a disaster. I actually thought I was wrong about that. I thought he was gonna have a big bounce back season because I thought a change of scenery was exactly what he needed. I was wrong about that. And they have a rebuild. They really do. I expect Jonathan Taylor to be traded. It's just a long rebuild there in Indy, I think, incoming. So we'll see what happens. But Colts F. Jaguars. I'm giving the Jaguars an A. I am. And I'm paying them behind the Bengals, and you might be like, well, they didn't make it to the AFC Championship game. Yeah, I don't care. I had this team in the tool at year one. I think I said 6-11. I believe is what I said for year one for Jacksonville. I was wrong. This team, and granted, I know it was at 9-8, won the division, came back down 27-7 in a playoff game, and won. They absolutely have a stud at quarterback in Trevor Lawrence for the future. I said Doug Pearson was an excellent hire, and as a Tennessee Titans fan, that scared me. And sure enough, it did because they actually swept the Titans this year after the Titans have been owning them the past 5-6 years. So, uh, listen, Jacksonville looks like the team to be in the AFC South going into next season, and I'm giving them an A. I am. I know they looked dead in the water early on in the season, but Doug Pearson, he was able to put together a great second half. They backed themselves into the AFC South Championship game, won a playoff game, and actually played Kansas City well in Arrowhead. They actually did a lot better than what I thought they were going to do. So I'm giving them an A. Chiefs, I gotta give them an S. Chiefs won the Super Bowl. You gotta give them an S. And I was wrong. I picked the Eagles to win the Super Bowl kind of convincingly. I was wrong. I didn't think that. To be honest, the Chiefs the first Super Bowl win with Mahomes, that was a better team than this team that won the Super Bowl. But give Mahomes credit, he's probably going to finish his career with 5 Super Bowls. Even though, to be honest, as long as Andy Reid is there and as long as the offense is clicking, who knows? Um, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm giving the Chiefs the S grade for winning the Super Bowl and giving them credit. I mean, they survived. They beat the Bengals. They beat Jacksonville, a hot Jacksonville Jaguars team, as I just mentioned, and they had come back down 24-14 against the Eagles to win that game. I mean, that second half, they were they were dominant. So Eagles, give them an S. Chargers, I'm giving the Chargers a B. And I am going to put them ahead of the Lions, but that for them to blow that lead is beyond unacceptable. I'll just say this: there were talks about their head coach Stanley getting fired. They didn't win that playoff game, and I was like, "Oh, he's gone." Nope, they decided to fire the offensive coordinator, bringing Kellen Moore as the OC, and keep Stanley. So I don't get that move at all. After it was rumored all week, basically, that you're firing him if he loses the playoff game. But the Chargers, they choke in typical fashion of the Chargers. Um, in my opinion, I still give them a B because they did finally get over the hump and make the playoffs. I still think the future's bright for them. But, I mean, they got to learn how to win games. That's always been the problem with the Chargers with me. It always seems like they blow leads, in my opinion. So, but I'm giving them a B. I will put them ahead of the Lions in the B category, but not ahead of the Cowboys, Bills, and Ravens. I think the Chargers, those do have a bright future. Dolphins. I'm giving the Dolphins a B as well. And I'm going to put them ahead of the Chargers and Lions. You look at the Dolphins. The Dolphins, the whole Tua Tagovailoa, the whole quarterback. With quarterback, it was a disaster for the Dolphins because of injuries. Tua's concussions. Teddy got injured. Teddy Bridgewater. Basically, we're coming in with a third string quarterback, and let me tell you something. I'll give them a lot of credit. I knew the Dolphins were for real, or at least a team that could definitely compete against anybody in the league. When they went up to Buffalo, that Sunday night football game, or maybe it was a Monday night game. Or no, it was a Saturday night game in like week 16, and they took Buffalo down to the wire. So I think Matt McDaniel, he did something that Brian Flores couldn't do, get the Dolphins to the playoffs. He did. He went up to Buffalo, covered that 13-point spread, which I said they would, and we'll see what happens there. I'm interested to see what happens at the quarterback position. I'm interested to see what happens there in Miami. But I do like this Dolphins team. I like what's going on there in Miami. Next, Vikings. I'm giving them a B. I am putting them ahead of the Chargers and Lions as well. I thought this team was a fraud throughout the season. I mean, yeah, they went 13-4 You lost in the wild card round to the Giants, and to me, kind of convincing fashion as well. I know the score was close, but I thought the Giants were the better team throughout that game. Um, I mean, you got ran out the building by Dallas. You got ran out the building by Green Bay that second to last week. So, in my opinion, you look at the Vikings. They just gotta get a defense. If they can get a defense, I think they'll be fine. But and their rookie head coach did a good job this year. But I mean, I can't overlook the fact that yeah, you won the NFC North, but I mean, you lost a playoff game that you guys were pretty good favorites in, and I'll admit I won a lot of money off that because I picked the Giants to win. But people were calling them a paper tiger throughout the year. And I expected them to win the NFC North, but I mean, in my opinion, I just think that the Vikings, they just need to get a defense. Patriots, I'm going to give the Patriots a solid C. I'm going to put them, I'm going to actually put them behind the Panthers and Falcons. They're really close with the Falcons, though. This season was kind of like whatever with the Patriots. I mean, first of all, thank God Matt Patricia's not your head coach. I'm not your head coach, your offensive coordinator anymore. Uh, Good lord, I could not believe he was calling plays for the Patriots. But you look at the Patriots. I mean, I feel like you're kind of in no man's land. Now, I do think you're closer for competing to get in the playoffs and competing in the playoffs than you are to a rebuild. But I mean, I just gotta give you a solid C down the line. That's how I feel about the Patriots. Next team, as I take a drink for a second here. Sorry, guys. All right, next grade here, we're gonna give ours to the Saints. I'm giving the Saints a C as well. Um, I am gonna put them. I believe I am gonna put them. I forgot how these teams finish in the standings. If it was Panthers, Saints, Falcons, or Panthers, Falcons, Saints. So excuse me if it was Panthers, Falcons, Saints. But I'm giving them a C as well. I thought this team underachieved a little bit this year. The Saints overall. Um, in my opinion, I do think they're going to be in the market for Derek Carr. I think that's possibly one of the places he will end up at. And if he does, I think the Saints will be better. I mean, this team was actually pretty close, in my opinion, from really turning the season around and really making the playoffs. Um, so we'll see what happens. But the Saints overall, just kind of like the Patriots. It's kind of like a whatever thing with the Patriots because and as well with the Saints because I mean they kind of hit my expectations, but that's really all they did. So I'm giving the Saints a C. Giants, I'm giving the Giants an A. I did not see this coming at all, and to be honest, I'm paying them ahead of Jacksonville. I like the Brian Daboll hire. I said that I felt like they were actually be a little bit better than what some people thought, but I still thought 6-7 wins, and I thought that they were going to be moving on from Daniel Jones. Man, was I wrong. They were great throughout the season, and they even went on the road and won a playoff game. Yeah, they lost to the Eagles. Okay. Um, Eagles were clearly a better team than the Giants, and that showed in that playoff game. But I'm giving them an A. I think this was a great season for the Giants. I think the Giants proved a lot of things this year, and I like to see how this goes. I don't know if they're a Super Bowl contender. I don't know if this was a fluke, but I'm giving them an A. They outdid my expectations. They outdid everybody's expectations in my opinion, and I'm giving the Giants an A. Jets. Man, the Jets. They don't get an F for me. God. I'm gonna give them a C. I'm putting them behind New England. And to be honest, the Jets might finish. Actually, no, I think New England did finish better than the Jets in that division. But they're barely getting a C for me. The Jets is really close between a C and D. But I'm gonna give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I actually think this team overall, they're good in some areas, they're bad in some areas, specifically quarterback. Sounds like they're going to give Zach Wilson another shot. We'll see what happens. I actually think they got the head coach correct in Saleh. I actually think that's correct. But, I mean, once again, the Jets, they look like they're going to be in the playoffs in October. but it fell apart. They fell back to where I thought they would be. Kind of in that 6-11, 7-10 range. Um, so I'm barely giving them a C. Once again, kind of just a team that hit my expectations and did nothing else. Raiders D. I am putting the Raiders ahead of the Browns in the D category. Um, the Raiders, to be honest with you, came a little bit short of my expectations. I thought the Raiders would miss the playoffs and be around 500. They were a bit below that. Moving on from Derek Carr, I think that's a good thing for the Raiders. Start fresh there, and we'll see what happens. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really sold on the Raiders with Josh McDaniels at the head coaching position, but overall, I gotta give you all a D. I just got to. That's where I see it. Eagles. I'm gonna give the Eagles. I'm putting them in the S category. They made the Super Bowl and lost, and to be honest, that holding call, they should have not called it. It was a holding, yes, but that you can't call a ticky tack holding call in that situation. I don't think Blueberry or Bradbury really impede the Juju that much. But Eagles. Here's the good thing about the Eagles: you have yourselves a quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and I said I believe in Jalen Hurts, and he proved it in that Super Bowl. So thank you, Jalen Hurts, for proving me right again. Um, Eagles' future is bright. It really is, and would not surprise me if they actually go back and win the Super Bowl next year. So, and I mean, the Eagles' future is bright. I'm putting them in the S tier. They won the NFC. They will be going to. They will win Super Bowls in Philly in the near future. Steelers. I'm giving the Steelers a solid B, and I'm putting them ahead. As a matter of fact, I'm only going to put them ahead of the Lions since they didn't make the playoffs. But I told you that's in the preseason. That 6.5 win total was way too low. I said they would definitely hit that win total. That was an easy over, and they ended up going 9-8. I mean the Steelers, in my opinion, they had themselves a quarterback in Kenny Pickett. I still think um, it's a long leash, in my opinion. I'm not completely sold on it, but he definitely made plays down the stretch and won games down the stretch. I'm thinking of that Ravens game in week 17 that that riled me. So the Steelers, I'm giving them a B. I think they hit my expectations this year. I said they'll be at 9-8, and that's exactly what they went. The 49ers. I'm paying the 49ers in the S tier, and you might sit there and be like, but they didn't even make the Super Bowl. Yeah, they didn't make the Super Bowl, but they were running out the emergency quarterback. I mean, for that whole second half, they had a quarterback that couldn't throw the ball more than 5 yards. I think the Niners would have beat the Eagles, honestly, if Jimmy Garoppolo was starting or Trey Lance. To me, the Niners might still have been the. To me, the Niners might have actually been the best team in football throughout the season from start to end. But the quarterback injuries came back to bite him in the ass in the NFC Championship game. They lost, and yeah, I think the Niners. I'm putting them in that tier, barely, but I always say this on my YouTube channel. If I could justify it or explain it, I'm doing it, and I could justify paying them in the S tier, and I can explain it. If it wasn't for the quarterback injuries, I think there would be a Super Bowl parade in San Francisco. I really do. So give me the Niners in S tier. Seahawks A tier, and I'm paying the Seahawks behind the Giants, but ahead of the Jaguars. This roster is actually a little bit better than what I thought it was. Looking back at it, I think people underrated this roster a little bit, but they outdid their expectations. Again, I expected this team to be 5-12, and they made the playoffs, backed themselves into that 7th seed. Yes, they did lose to San Francisco in convincing fashion in the wild card game. It didn't matter, in my opinion. It was kind of like the Eagles last year. It doesn't matter what happens in this game. They hit everybody's expectations. They exceeded expectations, and Look what happened to the Eagles the following season. They won the NFC. I don't think the Niners win the NFC, but I think they're competing for the playoffs again next year. I definitely think that. So I'm giving the Seahawks a in the A tier, and I'm giving them a lower grade in A. Titans. I'm a Tennessee Titans fan. I'm giving them an F. This season was a disaster. I get the injuries. They gotta get O line, and they gotta get wide receivers, and they gotta get a little bit better of a defense, in my opinion. But I mean, I'll put you guys on. I'll put the Titans on top of the F tier for the report card. But this season was a disaster. I mean, remember when the Titans were 7-3 after beating the Packers, and basically I was saying they're like, man, they're gonna run away with the AFC South again. Nope, they won't. That was their last win of the season. Actually, they're on Thursday Night Football. So Titans, they get an F from me. I'll put them ahead of all the other teams in the F tier, and that's not a bias. I actually do think overall 7-10 was kind of the floor for the team this year. And I remember I said the Titans will be competing for that 7th wildcard spot, and that they should not be favorites to win the division. That was the Colts. So I'm putting them in the top of F tier. Two more teams here, Bucks and Commanders. We'll start with the Bucks. I'm putting the Bucks in the top of D tier. I just think that the Bucks season overall was disappointing. Yes, they won the division, but I mean, whoever was facing the Bucks, it was pretty evident that they were going to be one and done. If whoever was coming out of the NFC South, the Bucks, I think, were heavy favorites. And personally, with me, they should have been heavy favorites to win the NFC South, and they barely won it. They did put together that great game against Carolina, but at the late in the season, but Tom Brady's gone. Situation's kind of looking murky there down in Tampa. Todd Bowles is not a good head coach, and to be honest, then they're probably not going to be favorites to win the NFC South next year, unless they get Jimmy Garoppolo. And even then, that might be a coin flip. So, Bucks D tier, and then Commanders. I'm putting them in D tier as well. I'm putting them in the bottom D tier though. I mean, yeah, they were. I mean, they're kind of like the Patriots and the Jets and the Saints. It was kind of like, yeah, they kind of hit my expectations, but outside of that, there was nothing special to it. It did look like at one point they might have made the postseason, but at the same time, I mean, it's like you knew they weren't. So, and I live in the Commanders fan base area, and I kind of get how the fans think. They really have to be sold for them to believe in the Commanders, and they just weren't. I mean, there was no. I mean, you knew where this was going, and to be honest, didn't surprise anybody. Now, I do think they will be a little bit better next year, primarily because I think hopefully they get a bit more healthier. I know the past 2 years the injury bug has really dinged them a lot. So, but hopefully they stay healthy. But I'm gonna give them a D, and I'm paying them behind everybody else in the D tier, but probably more of a mid D. There isn't really a D minus with me this year. Just solid D's or D pluses. But anyways, that's all the teams. That's the report card. So we have 3 in S tier, 4 in A tier. We have 8 that are getting B's, 5 that are getting C's, 4 that are getting D's, and I'm giving 8 F's out. So basically, it used to be, I think in college, anything below a C is failing, I believe. So 12 teams this year fail. 20 teams this year pass. So it is what it is. Comment down below. Tell me if you agree or disagree with these team grades throughout the season. I always like hearing feedback on things like this. Thanks for watching the video. Hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate if you do that. And this is McD, the